ShadowTales presents. I still remember the exact second the screen went black. The laughter track cut mid-breath. The room fell silent, and my son-in-law's shadow stretched across the wall like it had been waiting for that moment all along. "Enough of this trash," he said calmly, as if he were talking about a broken appliance, not the one thing keeping me company that night. I didn't argue. I never did. I had been watching my favorite TV show, the same one I watched every evening after dinner. It wasn't special, just familiar, predictable, safe. When you reach a certain age, you stop chasing excitement and start clinging to routines. They make the house feel alive when it's otherwise too quiet. My daughter had married him 3 years earlier. A neat ceremony, modest smiles, polite applause. He was the kind of man everyone trusted quickly, well-spoken, educated, respectful. The kind who stood up straight and looked you in the eye when he shook your hand. "Don't worry, sir," he'd told me back then. "I'll always take care of her." I believed him. I wanted to. After my wife passed, the house felt too large for just me. Too many empty rooms holding memories I couldn't silence. When my daughter suggested they move in, for a while, I agreed without hesitation. I told myself it was family. I told myself this was how healing looked. At first, it really did feel that way. He helped with groceries, fixed the loose cabinet hinge I'd ignored for years, asked me about my health, my old job, my childhood stories. Sometimes he even laughed at my jokes, just a second longer than politeness required. I mistook that for warmth. That night, when he shut off the TV, I thought nothing of it. Maybe he was tired. Maybe the volume bothered him. Maybe I was being sensitive. Still, something about the way he didn't ask stayed with me. He stood there for a moment after switching it off, arms folded, eyes scanning the room as if measuring it. Measuring me. "You should rest," he added. "Too much noise isn't good at your age." I nodded, smiled, said goodnight, but sleep didn't come easily. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling fan spinning slow circles, replaying the moment again and again. The words weren't cruel. The tone wasn't loud, yet it felt like a door had closed somewhere I couldn't see. The next morning, I woke up early. Old habits die hard. I made tea the way my wife used to, 2 cardamom pods, no sugar. The kitchen smelled comforting, familiar, grounding. My daughter came in, hair tied back, already tired. Marriage had aged her faster than time ever did. "Good morning, Abba," she said softly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her husband followed soon after. Crisp shirt, phone already in hand. He barely glanced at me. "Morning," he said, distracted. I wanted to tell her about the TV, about how small it made me feel. But the words stayed trapped behind my teeth. I didn't want to sound petty. I didn't want to cause tension. So I stayed quiet. Again, over the next few days, I began noticing things I hadn't before. The way conversations stopped when I entered the room. The way my daughter hesitated before answering simple questions. The way he started making decisions without asking, about groceries, visitors, even the placement of furniture in my house. He never raised his voice. That was the unsettling part. Control doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. One evening, I reached for the remote again. He looked up sharply from his phone. "You're still watching that?" he asked. I paused. "Yes, it helps pass the time." He sighed, not dramatically, just enough to let me know I was inconvenient. "Don't you think it's a bit pointless?" he said. "All this fiction, at this stage of life." I felt something tighten in my chest. "At this stage," I replied carefully, "routine matters." He didn't respond, just smiled thinly and went back to his screen. That night, I overheard them arguing behind their bedroom door. Not shouting, controlled voices, sharp pauses. My name floated through the silence once. Then again, I stood in the hallway, heart pounding, feeling like an intruder in my own home. The next day, he was unusually polite. He brought me tea himself, asked how I slept, even turned the TV on for me before leaving the room. The kindness felt rehearsed. That afternoon, my daughter told me they were handling some paperwork. Something about finances, property documents. She avoided my eyes when she said it. "Just formalities," she added quickly. "Nothing for you to worry about." But I was already worrying. Because that evening, when I sat down to watch my show again, the remote didn't work. I pressed the button. Nothing. I checked the batteries. New. Perfectly fine. My son-in-law appeared in the doorway, leaning casually against the frame. "Oh," he said, almost amused. I disabled it. I looked up at him, confused. Why? He tilted his head, studying me like a problem he'd already solved. Because tomorrow, he said slowly, we need to talk about some changes. My daughter stood behind him, half hidden, her face pale. She didn't say a word. And in that moment, with the TV silent, the room heavy, and my daughter unable to meet my eyes, I realized the switch he'd flipped the night before was never about the television at all. ShadowTales presents. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear exactly, but because my mind refused to accept what my heart already knew. The house felt different after his words. Smaller, as if the walls had leaned in to listen. Tomorrow, we need to talk about some changes. The sentence kept replaying, steady and calm, like a verdict already decided. When morning came, I was already awake, sitting at the dining table with a cup of untouched tea. The sunlight filtered in softly, pretending nothing was wrong. I almost wished it wouldn't rise at all. They came out together. My daughter walked first, her steps hesitant. Her husband followed, confident, carrying a thin folder under his arm. He placed it on the table between us like an offering. Or a warning. We should clear some things up, he said, sitting down without waiting for an invitation. For everyone's sake. I looked at my daughter. Clear what up? She swallowed hard. Abba, please just listen. That word, please, told me everything had already shifted. He opened the folder. Inside were papers neatly stacked, highlighted, flagged with small colored tabs. He'd prepared for this, thought it through, practiced it, maybe in front of a mirror. You're getting older, he began, tone measured, almost kind. This house is too much responsibility. Bills, maintenance, legal matters, it's not practical. This is my home, I said quietly. He nodded. Of course, but ownership and management are different things. I felt my chest tighten. What are you saying? He slid one paper toward me. We think it's best if you transfer decision-making authority to us. Just on paper. Nothing changes day to day. Nothing changes. The most dangerous sentence a person can hear. My eyes skimmed the document. Legal language. Complex words designed to confuse, not explain. This says control, I said slowly. Not assistance. My daughter finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. It's just for convenience, Abba. He understands these things better. I get confused with paperwork. I looked at her, the child I once held while she cried over scraped knees. The girl who used to hide behind my legs when thunder scared her. When did you stop trusting me? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't answer. He leaned forward. This isn't about trust, it's about efficiency. And honestly, your habits aren't helping. My habits, the TV, the routines, the resistance to change, he said gently. You're stuck in the past. Something inside me went still. So that's what this was. Not concern, control. I built this house, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Brick by brick, with my own hands. And we're grateful, he replied smoothly. But gratitude doesn't pay bills. I pushed the papers back. I won't sign this. The air changed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply sat back and looked at my daughter. She flinched. Abba, she said quickly, we just want what's best. Please don't make this difficult. Don't make this difficult, as if I were the problem. I need time, I said. To think. He smiled, thin and tight. Time is exactly what you don't have. That was the moment the betrayal revealed itself, not loudly, not cruelly, but completely. Over the next week, the house became unfamiliar territory. The TV remained disabled. My mail disappeared before I could read it. My daughter grew quieter, like someone living underwater. And he became efficient. He scheduled appointments for me. Spoke about me while I was in the room. Corrected me when I spoke, politely, repeatedly. I started feeling like a guest. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived before he could intercept it. From the bank. I read it twice. Then a third time. Accounts modified. Access changed. Notifications redirected. My hands trembled. Not from age, but from clarity. That evening, I called my daughter into my room. She sat on the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on the floor. Did you know? I asked softly. Silence. Did you know what he was doing? Tears spilled before words did. He said it was temporary. He said you'd be safer. That you wouldn't understand all this stress. And you believed him. She nodded, broken. I didn't want to fight anymore. That was the truth. Not greed. Not cruelty. Fear. I reached for her hand. You don't protect someone by erasing them. That night, I packed a small bag. No drama, no confrontation. At dawn, I left the house I built. I stayed with an old friend for a while. Someone who remembered me not as an inconvenience, but as a person. Together, we reviewed everything, slowly, carefully. The documents, the accounts, the permissions. Nothing illegal had happened, but nothing honest had either. I took my time reclaiming what was mine, not with anger, but with precision. When I finally returned to the house weeks later, it felt quieter than ever. He avoided my eyes. My daughter hugged me like she was afraid I'd disappear again. The TV worked. I turned it on that evening, the familiar theme music filling the room. Not because I needed the show, but because I needed to remind myself of something important. The real betrayal wasn't turning off a screen. It was turning off a voice. And I promised myself, no one would ever do that to me again. This was ShadowTales.